Welcome to Social Work TV. My name is Shakia Houston. It's a great day to be alive and well. It is February 27th, 2022. Make sure you like, subscribe, make sure you share. We have a great special guest here. If you would like to introduce yourself, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. How's everyone? My name is Corey Williams. I am a licensed therapist and the owner of Quintessential Wellness Solutions, which is a therapeutic firm based out of Boston. Currently in the process of expanding to Cincinnati, Ohio, as well. I'm an award-winning author, right, and a co-owner of a real estate investment company.
Cool. What made you get into this field?
That's an interesting question. Like I was always kind of the person or the friend within the circle that was always trying to solve people problems and being in other people's business, right? A good
Right.
therapist is somebody actually at the core of of their being that kind of knows it. So that might be my reasoning for doing it. My guilty reason for doing it. But honestly, another reason, what really made me get into this field, was my son. My
Okay.
son, very inspired by him. I have a 22-year-old um, autistic son, and I wanted to just learn as much as I can about the spectrum and what he was dealing with and what he would potentially be dealing with, and ensure that I have all the necessary resources, or at least have access to, right, the necessary resources for him to be successful in life. So he was my real inspiration to transitioning into this field.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I always want to hear stories of, social workers, clinicians,
Hmm.
of what made them get into this field because I mean it's a gift, it's a craft, right?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and people instill in us and trust us enough to, um, you know, try to strategize and help them
Yeah.
get over any obstacle and cope, coping mechanisms. So that's an awesome thing. So we're gonna just jump right in, dive right in.
Yeah,
Make sure
let's
you
go.
like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Make sure we're letting everybody know that we're tuning in. We're live today. We're talking about trust issues.
Mm,
A lot of people's like, oh,
mm.
everybody's like, okay, that's a good topic, and it is. Um, me only being 36, I had to figure things out, as far as like trusting. What is your definition of trust issues, like trust?
Well, I mean, let's really like explore, yeah, trust, right? Trust is essentially it's the delicate, invisible, right, fabric that holds all relationships together,
Right.
right? And if you damage or cut or fray one thread, right, that fabric it'll quickly just unravel. So whether it's in business, relationships, both
Mhm.
intimate and distant, um, conversations, government, education, and dare I say, places of worship, right? All throughout our lives, trust again is that fabric that holds all of these relationships together. So, um, but what I've noticed is that many of us who desire to be in relationships, we tend to believe that love and
Mm.
trust are one and the same, and that couldn't be far further from the truth.
Right. Absolutely.
Hmm.
I think more so like we do misinterpret as far as with love and it's two entities, right? How can you
Yeah,
explain that a little
yeah,
bit?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let me explain it in a way so that your listeners are like, who does he think he is? I don't want them to say right. So the relationship between trust and love, I mean, it's a close one, right? But throughout my professional journey, I've come to realize that trust holds more value than love, right? So too often we mistake love as being the one thing that conquers all. But
Mm,
sadly, this gives us a false hope and it forces us to accept harsh realities that love is actually not enough,
mm,
right? So two individuals, they may love each other and, with all their hearts, but they both know that the relationship has been damaged due to simply a lack of trust.
Mm.
Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's that connection, that I feel, well, the difference, between that love and trust, right?
Yeah.
Trust, love is blind, trust isn't.
Right. Right. You're right. It's so explained. Yes, it
right.
is.
It's more valuable than love, right?
Yeah.
Trust is the foundation of love, right? So
yeah.
Trust is not enough. Love is enough, right? Trust enhances love. We
Absolutely.
can love someone because we trusted him or her at one point in time. But as soon as that trust is destroyed, the initial love that was built on trust isn't enough.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I was looking up what is trust issues. Trust issues are characteristics by fears of betrayal and abandonment and manipulation. Many of us fall victim to betrayal, abandonment, and manipulation, whereas at the hands of our partners, our parents, or our significant others, and we become traumatized. How could we identify that we have trust issues? What are some of the characters other than what I just read? Give us some examples of like, okay, I think I got trust issues.
Yeah. Well, let me put it this way. This is how you can identify, and you may see it within yourself, but this is how you can identify someone who may be a little untrustworthy, right? They're showing signs of being untrustworthy. Will that do?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Go ahead.
Cool.
We in this. We in this together. Go
All
ahead.
right, cool. So someone who's traditionally saying one thing and doing another, right? So like I mentioned earlier, like that fabric of trust is weakened when we act, contrary to our words. Okay. Right. So our words or our outward expression of our intentions, we say one thing, we do another thing. It's hard for people to identify the real person behind the words. Disingenuous speech, right? Those words that reek of any isms. That's what I like to call them. They're words that really tear that fabric apart as well. What we say matters. So harsh words, abusive language, and sarcastic jokes in the presence of of others, they do serious damage to that invisible fabric of trust, right?
Yeah.
Those who make promises that they can't keep, right?
Yeah.
This is what we should be looking at with regard to, am I dealing with someone who's not trustworthy? Or do I possess these characteristics, right?
Right.
So your track record is the measure of your credibility. So over-promising may make you look good in a relationship, but a lack of follow-through is it's monumentous, right? It's not like trophies in a relationship.
Right.
And I think the last sign that you should look for is like those people who refuse to apologize, after relationships have been damaged, right?
Yeah.
So the only possible way for a patch between, between that sewn of fabric of trust is through true apology.
Yeah.
Right. An apology can repair the fabric of trust, but like a piece of cloth, there will always be evidence that it was once torn.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think more so like when the trust is broken, you feel I understand emotions and feelings, they come and go, but it's like when you know for a fact that they're not trustworthy, or if they have vindictive behavior, and that's with a friendship, relationship,
absolutely,
parents, anything,
even in business.
Feel it. Yeah, you can instantly feel it. Yes. You be like, that wasn't even genuine. Like it wasn't even. I didn't even feel it. You know what I mean? So, what do you do? What do you do with those? I guess those thoughts and feelings when you kind of like cut them off. Like you mentally, you cut them off, because if I can't trust you, yeah, like some people like, oh, you dead to me. Like that's a little harsh, but Uh, but a lot of people, they cut each other, they cut them off. So
Yeah.
what do we do as far as with those feelings, and how could we not get it to, as far as when we meet other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have to build that trust. We have to, let me see how could we like not just shut people out, especially
Yeah.
new people come into
Yeah.
our lives because of what somebody else has done.
Right. First and foremost, people need to kind of walk through life and stop looking at life through a window, right? And start looking at life through a mirror.
Yeah.
So in that sense, you need to be asking yourself, why do I struggle with developing trust in relationships, right? And so that means there's that layer of onions that you need to start peeling back to find out what the core of your problem is.
Yeah. I say
Why?
that too.
Yeah, like why do I find myself in relationships that traditionally, I struggle with trusting this person, even when they have not shown themselves to be untrustworthy, right? I'm hyper vigilant. I'm kind of looking for things, to go wrong, right? And and with trust issues, like there's so many empirical studies that have been done on trust issues, just on the topic of alone of trust issues. And there was actually one that was done actually last year, 2021, by an author named I think her name was Carrie Wu, right? And she determined that there was a direct connection to an individual's level of education and their ability to develop trust in relationships. Now, I had some reservations with that, but it was an interesting study nonetheless, right? It ultimately determined that the higher education achieved leads to higher levels of cognitive ability. And for this reason, better educated individuals tend to make better decisions. And I think it stated they have better control in uncertain situations. And over time, their cumulative positive experiences interacting with others, as well as their ability to accrue like the benefits of norms of reciprocity, make them more trusting, right? So the smarter you are, the more exposed you are in higher levels of education, the more willing you are to develop trusting relationships and trust others. It's deep.
Yeah.
So this trust issue, this concern, concept as far as trust is concerned, it definitely runs deep, and it affects a lot of people, right? And there's a lot of reasons as to why, you may or an individual may have trusting or trust issues, dealing with past infidelity,
Yeah.
Early childhood, trauma,
Yeah.
as you mentioned,
Yeah.
Eric Erickson, in his concept of the theory of development, he actually stated in the 8 stages of development, the first stage is trust versus mistrust.
Yeah.
So if there's a disruption early in your early development stage, it affects how you develop relationships later on in life. So
Yeah.
to circle it back, to answer the question, you have to begin looking within self
Yeah.
first. And why do I struggle with developing these trusting relationships? Is it something in my past? Is it due to past infidelity? Am I carrying this trust baggage or mistrust baggage into different relationships? You got to look at yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I like to go back to the childhood experience. When oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
When when the, as far as mistrust or the lack of confidence in a child, because like some parents, they can be inconsistent with their responses, inconsistent with and sometimes in their behavior, and sometimes it causes um like, as far as like failure, or a child, broken promises, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, man, it's like you look for that validation from your parents. Then you get older, here it is. I'm looking for that same thing, something
Yeah.
else to cope. And there, when you don't get validated or you don't feel that subpar, then you like, oh, I don't trust that. And then we
Yeah.
self-sabotage stuff. You know,
Mhm.
that's one of the things that I never experienced that, but I know some people have.
Yeah,
If they're dealing with that, if they're dealing with childhood trauma, um, and you know, childhood make and break you. I think that's the being in this field. Um, childhood is like what happens in childhood. It shows up in adulthood.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
I think that's
absolutely
the
does.
most important thing. Yeah.
It
No, you
absolutely
right.
does.
Yeah.
And to speak on this, the concept of validation, I think the greatest problem is when you are in relationships seeking validation, right?
Hmm.
And I identify that as a problem because if you have not developed the skill set of self validation, patting yourself on the back for
Yeah.
your achievements, right? Or are you defining yourself by your achievements? That's why I said you can't walk through life looking at life through a window. You
Hmm.
always have to be very reflective of self, right? And how you are showing up in these relationships. What are you bringing into these relationships, right? What baggage are you bringing into these relationships? And so I when I counsel people, you know, that's I always start from that perspective.
Yeah.
And a lot of people struggle with kind of looking within self, right? Because it's easy to say you're the
Yeah.
reason why I have these trust issues,
Yeah.
or mom, or previous boyfriend, or job, or whatever, politics. You're
Yeah.
the reason why I have these trust issues, right?
Mm.
But not really acknowledging, you know, why it's triggering you. Why is it triggering you so much?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah. I think more so like yeah, that digging within yourself, it'll mess you up when you find
it'll
out
mess you up.
you're like, oh,
Especially if it's
that's hard.
tumultuous, right?
Yeah, it's something
Especially if you
else.
had a
Like,
rough past.
yeah, definitely. Even in we trust issues in relationships.
Hmm.
Um, you know, when you I guess when you're in a relationship, you trust them enough to, be vulnerable, to, be yourself, to be able to um pour into them, and you kind of like do the same thing. But when you feel betrayed or, infidelity, your mind, your mind, it's like mixed emotions, and mixed messages of trust issues,
Hmm.
because it's like, okay, I love him, but he did this, and
Hmm.
all these things are kind of like counteracting each other. It's like, okay, but we broke up, but we gonna get it back together, and it's like confusion. So it's kind of like set the tone in the atmosphere of, and it breaks down the mutual trust, the foundation of where it started
Hmm.
of trust. Um, I don't know, like how do in relationships, how can people heal from that? As far as, well, deal with that, not heal. Well, heal and deal with that, because a
Okay.
lot of people we're out, they're out here just trying to fix stuff. They're not actually trying to heal.
Hmm.
They're trying to fix. Like, all right, let me put a band-aid over this. Like, no,
Absolutely.
honey.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what could we do? Well, I think I did ask that question. Yeah, like how could we, as people that are in relationships,
Hmm.
goals?
How can we develop the ability to begin trusting?
Yeah, trusting again
Yeah.
after the fact.
Yeah. Well, so there's a myriad of reasons as to why someone maybe is unable to form trust in relationships, as we already identified, like,
Right.
you know, these past infidelities and different things like that.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, first you need to, as I continue to mention, like you first you need to do some self work, self reflection, to kind of, you know, come to an understanding as to why you feel, you know, why you're experiencing these trust concerns, right? But relationships, right? Let's kind of dig into the concept of relationships, right?
Mhm.
Your level of maturity is directly connected to your partner's imperfections, right? And
Right.
so you have to figure out who you have to be and who you need to show up as in effort to navigate their imperfections, right? And so I always tell various clients that I work with, like, don't give up before you grow up, right?
Mhm.
You need to figure out who you need to transition into. Who do I have to be in order to operate in this space. Now, I'm not saying don't be no dummy, don't be no fool, right? Don't allow yourself to stay in abusive relationships, and other things that you probably would consider toxic or just not conducive for your well-being. Don't stay in those relationships. But forgetting to tell you the time they were supposed to come home from work, all the little different situations that create and pile up and create this trust issue that's created, and as far as this trust issue is concerned. You have to, again, you got to look within self, right? And understand that this is the one relationship that will require this change to happen, right? That will require the most out of you, right? And you have to ask yourself, am I willing to make this change? Right. In order to develop a trusting relationship, you have to prove yourself as trustworthy as well. So you have to kind of walk the walk and talk the talk, right? Mm-hmm. Are you doing this, what you expect from your partner? Are you willing to, do the same thing? Are you willing to, provide reciprocity in the same areas? Many of us are not.
Yeah.
I expect you to tell me where you are and whatever the case may be, whatever your triggers are.
Yeah.
But are we willing to give the same back? Are we willing to be that transparent back? And when you present it that way, it's like, no.
Right.
You're shaking your head right now, like,
But you know what? When we're like, oh, I forgive you, but then they bring it right back up, like, oh, you ain't forgive me for real.
Because they didn't forgive you.
Just keep that same energy. That's how I feel. Keep that same energy. Like, you didn't forgive me for real.
Well, so forgiving is it's hard for people. Forgiveness is hard for people, right?
It definitely is.
Those phases of forgiveness and really,
be
willing to forgive people. Yeah.
Yeah, they throw it right back up in your face. And it's just like, okay, well, you could have kept that. We could have just let this ride out, Well, that's don't listen to me. But no, I was gonna go further into attachment style. Thank you, Miss Austin. Do you think trust issues are magnified by one's attachment style?
Oh, yes, they are absolutely magnified by attachment styles. Miss Austin, who I think they may have asked that question. Your attachment style or your characteristic patterns of behavior in a relationship, it also plays a role in how you respond to trust in relationships, right? So people with secure attachment styles, right, they may be more likely to trust others or forgive mistakes, right? Mm-hmm. And so those with insecure attachment styles, and there are 4 to 5 different attachment styles, right? But those with insecure attachment styles, on the other hand, they struggle more with trust, and they're more likely to experience jealousy and anxiety in relationships, right? So if you don't have trust, it means you won't feel secure that your partner will love you and be loyal to you, right? After all, like I said, trust simply means that you can rely on your partner and confide in them and feel safe with them. So attachment styles is a key factor. And as a practitioner, as a therapist, we assess, for that as well, what attachment styles are kind of showing up, in this particular individual, and what are the patterns? We're always looking for patterns.
Yeah, definitely. Someone says people will make up a whole scenario of betrayal that never took place. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's something else. They're dealing with something.
No, like people create scenario things.
Yes, they do. That's what I mean. That's something else, right? Those are the patterns, right? And so when I tend to ask, like, well, tell me about your past relationship. Well, this person was doing this and this person was doing, and then, but they don't have, concrete evidence or proof that this happens. These are just things that they're making up in their mind, right? To validate or justify their behaviors, right? Or their reasonings for wanting to exit. But those are traditionally individuals who, have this insecure attachment style that I talked about, right?
Yeah. They struggle with trust and experience jealousy, anxiety in a relationship.
Yeah.
They on pins and needles.
Yes.
Who gonna stay? You might as well be by yourself, honey, if you're
Yeah.
gonna act like that.
Exactly. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, and I counsel, like I said, some individuals I counsel, they may ask, whether it's man or woman, they may ask that age-old question: why do I keep running into the same type of individual? Why I keep
Yeah.
finding liars? Or why do I keep, and then we go into exploring what their attachment styles are. You know, traditionally, what I've seen, people who share similar attachment styles tend to attract one another,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so when you get with someone who's very secure in their attachment style, who didn't have any early disruptions regarding caretakers or anything like that,
Yeah.
then they get with this anxious attachment style person, it causes this disruption because they're coming and going in the anxious style attachment person. They're kind of coming and going in this relationship, while the secure person is just like, oh, well, do your thing.
Right. Go on about your way.
Yeah. And then they feel abandoned. You don't love me. You don't. Well, no, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm very secure in who I am.
Yeah.
And this relationship, but you're not.
Yeah.
But an anxious attachment style person can influence a secure attachment style person, and then you'll end up with two people with anxious attachment style.
Listen, too much attachment. No,
Yeah, hey,
no, like it definitely energies and vibes. They flow together. And at one point, I was like, why do I keep attracting these type of people? No, I have to deal with it myself. I'm like, nah, Shakia, get yourself together, honey. Because this ain't it.
Yeah. Yeah, what do ladies like to say? Fix your life. Some people need to be out here fixing their life. Seriously.
I wasn't trying to fix it. I was just like, I'm going with the flow. What are we doing? Someone said relationships are mirrors to unresolved trauma.
They hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, definitely.
They hit the nail on the head.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I agree wholeheartedly. It's definitely a reflection.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Oh, the insider self-talk. Oh, okay. Cool.
I love the inner. Yes, the inner self.
The inner insider.
Yeah,
the inner self. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Self-talk. Yeah.
We have to really be mindful of that inner self-talk, right? Especially when it's negative talk, because we need to understand that negative talk is not necessarily our voice, right? It's an accumulative of various perspectives and criticism and judgment that we've received over the years. We tend to we tend to internalize all of that information, and it now becomes our narrative, right? So you have to be very mindful of that negative self-talk that happens, that and be willing to kind of start looking at life and yourself through an alternative lens.
Absolutely. Yeah. So how to overcome trust issues? Oh, wait. Can a relationship recover from trust issues?
It absolutely can. Anything's possible.
Okay.
It absolutely can. It just, it just requires, both individuals to set expectations in their relationship, set healthy boundaries in that relationship, communicate about what is causing these concerns in your relationship, but also communicate why you are struggling with this idea or this concept of trust. Not necessarily criticizing your partner, right? But like I said, focusing on self. Why am I struggling with this? Why am I struggling with this, this relationship, or even just the concept of trust? So yes, it can. It's a choice. You can make the choice to be in this relationship and navigate their imperfections, right? Or you can make the choice to step out of it, right? But you have to take the consequences that come with either choice, right?
Definitely. Mm-hmm. So that was, I was going to get to that, how to overcome trust issues. I would say, like, build me from what I experienced. I built slowly, slowly but surely, and I trust my first mind. I'm like, ooh, I know what I be feeling, but I still continue to navigate and to be able to redirect, if you know, and set boundaries too. You know,
Yeah.
like, let me be vocal about what's going on. Hey, I'm working on me, you know, and I don't like what that feels like. You know, I'd rather be vocal and be able to talk about my trust issues. And well, that's what I've done. But yeah, like just talk about trust issues. So how can we overcome, and also how can we just I guess I lost my train of thought.
Trust issues.
Yeah, let's start from there because it's gonna come back to me.
Yes.
So
How do we rebuild trust in relationships?
Yes. How can we overcome like that trust issue?
I hate to sound like a broken record, right? But again, you in effort to start the process of rebuilding trust issues, you need to first examine yourself. Why do I have these trust issues? Right? You have to start from the beginning, from the root, from the core, because yes, the individuals that you are engaging with, right, and you're experiencing these trust issues with are clearly triggers. They're triggers to something.
Yeah.
Right. Something you're feeling these trust issues cause it's invoking some emotions within you. And you're like, why am I experiencing this? Well, I'm going to, like I said, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to always say you need to kind of start with self and figure out why am I experiencing this? Why am I feeling, these trust issues? Why am I, why do I have these trust issues? Why am I in relationships that I seemingly, become very hyper vigilant and looking for things to go wrong, right? Or when I experience these things, as far as trust issues are concerned, why does it affect me so much? And so, but again, look within self, take some self-assessment regarding whatever your attachment styles are, right? But that goes for both people, both individuals in the relationship. And again, I'm not saying stay in an unhealthy relationship. I'm not saying that, right? I'm not saying navigate these imperfections. I mean, if these imperfections are causing harm or not, feasible to your health and wellness, then yes, you need to remove yourself, right? And find someone who's worthy of that space, right? So I'm gonna always say, start with self.
Absolutely. Miss Austin, she has a question. Lying seems to be the number one reason for trust issues. Do you think there's ever a justified reason not to tell the truth?
Yes, I'm gonna say yes, and I know I'm gonna catch a lot of slack for this.
We listening. I wanna know what we doing. Like
okay. So yes, I don't want to say lying, but because lying it sounds very bad, right? So dishonesty or privacy. Can we label this privacy? Okay. So in relationships, everyone is entitled to a level of privacy, right? And when we tend to misconstrue the whole idea of I do, meaning I'm entitled to know any and everything about you. So when it's justified, if your past hurt or experiences, right, affect you in a way and they make you feel a level of shame or whatever it is that it invokes in you, right? And you don't feel like sharing this with your significant other is going to affect your relationship in any way. It doesn't bring harm or to your partner's health and wellness, then yes, there's no reason to disclose this part of your life, right? We were individuals and we had a life prior to becoming one.
Right.
So you are entitled to that privacy. Everybody, it's a basic human right. Right? It's a basic human right. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
That it's a basic human right that we are all entitled to privacy. But the question you have to ask yourself is simply, does this privacy or this whatever it is that I need to disclose, does it affect my partner? Will it affect my partner? Right? Will it affect the health and wellness and the well-being of my relationship? And if yes, if it does, then you have a right. You have a right to disclose this information to your partner, right?
Yeah.
So at the core of it, what justifies it is if it doesn't affect your partner, if it doesn't cause them harm or any way, shape, or form, if it doesn't affect your relationship in a negative way, it doesn't impact it, so that it won't be a successful multi-decade, relationship or marriage,
Yeah.
then you're entitled to that.
Absolutely. Someone said it's called a therapeutic field. That's why I started laughing. I was like, yeah, privacy space.
And again, people struggle with that, right? People do struggle with that, right? But again, it's a basic human right, right? It is a basic human right, right? You learn that growing up in your parents' household, when you're in your room, you're getting undressed, you're entitled to your privacy, right? And this is what I mean by basic human right, as far as privacy is concerned. But I know a lot of people are thinking about superficial stuff like, you need to tell me where you are at all times. I need to go through your phone and all the different things that I've heard, in some of my sessions. And I always ask, the clients, I want to know, so do you feel like you're entitled to go through his phone or her phone? Do you feel like you're entitled to that? Of course, I always get yes. And I say, well, why?
Right. Some stuff need to be, left alone.
I think you have a right to disclose what you want to disclose in your in your relationship. And again, if it doesn't affect and or harm the other.
Right. So exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Someone said, Miss Austin said, we have to talk about this because folks say they want honesty, but do we really want to know everything?
Right. Do you? And that's what it boils down to as well. Do you really want to know everything? Yeah. Right. Because a lot of people struggle with honesty, right? And either being honest or accepting honesty.
Yeah.
So honest feedback. So
that's
a perfect question.
Yeah. A lot of people, they say, oh, I want you to be honest. Then you hit them with it. Child, they gonna hide under a rock. They can't take it. They can't take that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That you wanted it. Here you go.
You got it. You got it.
So I have trust issues because of Santa and the Easter Bunny, examples of therapeutic fibs in childhood. Yeah.
I gotta understand a little bit more. I'm not following.
Like the trust issues. I don't know. Oh, I have trust issues because of Santa and the Easter Bunny. Examples of therapeutic fibs in childhood. You know what? It's a little fib.
Yeah. Okay, so I get where they're going, right? And I understand the reasoning behind, why many of us were told that these, figures were true, It's really to inspire some level of hope and, push children to utilize their imagination, right?
Yeah.
But I get it. I agree with the individual. It's a therapeutic fib. I don't think I've ever heard of therapeutic fib though. Like they don't even, those two words don't even.
Right. Listen, hey, it works. Look, somebody said because we lied. Love me or leave me alone. Who said that? What you mean by that? Oh, we lie to kids all the time. We gaslight them big time. Okay, yeah. I can see that. Yeah. And so when we get big kids or bigger adults, and we're like, oh, my mom and them used to,
used to lie to me all the time.
Just be lying. I couldn't say lie, so I can say lie now. I feel comfortable. Because I used to say tell stories. Change, even when with my mom. I was like, yeah, they lying. She just looked. I'm like, tell stories,
Right, but are those see now? Do those lies impact you later in life? Like now you have these trust issues in relationship because you've been told Santa was real, and then you realize Santa and and the Easter Bunny aren't real. Like, but everyone's different, right?
Yeah,
Everyone's different. So
yeah.
I meet people where they are. So if whoever that individual is felt that way, then we'll unpack that.
Yeah. Now I have to ask a question. I
Yeah.
know the mistrusting behavior. Can we like decipher between trust and control?
Mm,
People with trust issues, they feel like the need to control everything, the narrative. Now,
mhm,
is it, they may feel like they've been betrayed, taken advantage of,
mhm,
and they want to have complete control over the situation.
mhm.
How can we, uh, I guess, dissect if it's control or trust? Well, trust and control.
Mhm.
I hope that I explained that right.
I'm gonna try to unpack it. So trust and control are clearly not one and the same, right?
Mhm. Right.
And what I've found, working, in my practice in counseling, that individuals who have this desire to control the outcome of various situations, um, they tend to want to control these situations mainly because they are trying to reduce the impact, right, of this of what this situation may have on them, the toll it may have on them,
Yeah.
emotionally and or physically, depending on the particular situation, right? And so the stress comes in where we try to control things that's not within our control,
Mm.
right? And so that's why I say the trust and control are not one and the same, right? They
Right.
may invoke the same level of emotional stress,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they're definitely not one and the same. Does that answer the question?
Yes, that does.
Okay.
It does. But no, like I just really, I think it's a candid conversation that needs to be had about trust
Yeah,
issues. Like a lot of people
absolutely.
struggle with trusting because of past experience. Just doing a recap,
Yeah.
um, infidelity,
Hmm. Hmm.
betrayal, things like that. So I always recommend, like how you said, deep diving deep in within yourself. Also going to therapy. Like I encourage therapy
Yes.
to 3.0,
Yes.
like you need it. Like it's definitely, yeah, it's definitely needed.
Hmm.
Especially, in the Black community, we don't talk about certain things. We want to brush everything under the rug
Hmm.
and not discuss, some of the things that's hurting us. So,
Absolutely.
I feel like this is the year of healing. Either we're gonna heal it or we're gonna fix it. I'd
Hmm.
rather just heal it so it can be completely, recovered and restored. You know,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, um, so do you have any last words that you would like to tell people or tell the people
Yeah.
regarding
Yeah.
trust issues and things like that?
I would just repeat what I mentioned a little bit earlier. I hope that it impacts someone, in whatever way, positive way that it can. Again, as I mentioned, you're in relationships. Your level of maturity is connected to your partner's imperfections, right? If your partner was perfect in every way, you wouldn't experience personal growth.
Right.
It's really
That's
just that simple,
yeah.
right? And more importantly, like I mentioned before, um, don't give up before you grow up, before you give yourself the opportunity to metamorphosize or transition into this person that you need, or transition into this dimension that you need to be in this space that you need to be in an effort to navigate your significant other's imperfections, right? So don't give up before you grow up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's good. That's good. So how can people find you? on any social media handles and things like that?
So you can find me on Instagram, CJ the Therapist. That's CJ the Therapist. As well, the same thing on Twitter. Um, or you can actually, you can go to my website if
Okay,
someone was looking for, any a counselor or to kind of navigate marriage concerns or individual concerns.
absolutely.
Um, the website is Q Wellness Solutions with the S.com. That's Q Wellness Solutions with the S.com.
Okay, I'm trying to put it in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wellness solutions.com. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool. Thank you so much. It's been
Absolutely.
an honor and a privilege for you to get on this live with me
Yes.
to
Thank
discuss
you so much for
trust.
having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Regarding trust issues. So, make sure everybody like, subscribe, make sure you follow Mr. Williams. Greatly appreciate it. You getting on this live and
Yes.
conversing with me regarding trust issues. Everybody tune in next week on Social Work Sunday Tea. It's Social Work Month. So we're gonna get it cracking. I got some social workers. I found some off Twitter and and I was like, hey, it's social work month. Let's go. So
Yes. Yes.
we're gonna have a good time and just like we're having today, right now. So make sure you tune in, look out for news, T news, all that good stuff. So thank you so much. I'm honored for you to get on this platform with me.
Yes.
And it's good. It's all good.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I'll see you guys next week. All right.